Hi, I'm Michael. Welcome to New Victory Gardening. I thought I'd take a day to look at the pot garden again and maybe just talk about where we are and make a couple of adjustments. Let's put it that way. If you looked at the video where I planted this garden and you examine it, you'll see that I made a couple of mistakes when I planted it. And so those mistakes now need to be addressed by making a course correction in what we have planted in the pots, right? And so we can talk about that, and I hope to do that pretty quickly and maybe talk about some other things. But first, let me water. Let's water the garden. I have my water hose here. And so it's pretty funny. I don't know what kind of day you're having, but my day's been pretty challenging, and sometimes it happens. I got rid of harlequin stink bugs, and today I found brown marmorated stink bugs here. I have about 4 or 5 different kinds of birds, different species of birds, all trying to eat my grapes and eat my plants. The birds are even eating the collard greens this year, which that's a first for me. I've never had birds eat collard greens, but now I have some that do. I found out I have a variety of animals who are coming into my garden to sample. So it's not just birds, there's squirrels, there's some other small animals like possums, raccoons. It's hard for me to identify them, but I can see that they've been there because how they've treated my plants. And so as we end the month of June, I thought let me look at this pot garden and see if there's a change that I can make. I mean, maybe other folks have experienced the same where you just feel ready to throw in the towel and give up. And for me, today would be one of those days where you think about throwing in the towel and just going to the grocery store. But even with this garden here, with what I've harvested out of this garden, it's already paid for itself. And so it is worth it. It's still worth it. And it's a good activity. It gets you outside and active. And that's why we garden. Plus, it's resilient. You know, food is getting expensive now. And so if you can grow your food for cheap and always have some available, or try to make it to where you can just replace some part of what you buy at the store, you know, why not do it? You know, you never know what the future holds. And I would rather be ready than not ready and able to supplement. Like, even if it's not the most lavish or a whole lot of food, at least I'm supplementing something, right? And so I water my garden like this usually twice a day. If it's cooler than 90 degrees, I'd only do it once a day. If it's above 90 degrees, I water like this twice a day. The good thing is, when I planted this garden, I planted greens in the garden because they are a resilient crop, and they are easy to manage, and they are hardy. And so they make excellent candidates to get you started and to get you growing something in a simple container like a pot. And so now let's talk about the mistake that I made. And in order to do that, I'll come get the camera. Okay. So looking here at the pots that were planted, I'm trying to give like a good look. You can see some plants are doing better than others, and some plants are not doing so good. And so if we look here at this pot, we'll see I have a tomato here, this tomato, which is it's just not, I don't know. It just never set. It hasn't grown well. It's not sprouting healthy leaves. It doesn't look sick, but it does not look healthy either. There's no aphids. I don't see any infestation. There's no disease. This is one of those specialty varieties of tomato. And there was my mistake, right? As you watch me plant, go check out the other video where I planted this garden. You should be saying, you said in another video that if you're planting tomatoes in pots, that you should use a determinate variety, or you should plant a cherry tomato. And so this is neither. So you see, I set myself up maybe for a harder time by not planting the right varieties. And so when thinking about planting, especially a new victory garden, right? The theme of this channel is replace some part of the food that you would have to buy with what you garden, right? And so I need plants that produce. And in that same vein, if a plant is not producing, I need to make a change to a plant that will help. And so this plant right here, it is not doing so good. And so I actually already went and purchased another $5 plant here. It's a cherry tomato, like a chocolate cherry. And I'll be digging out and replacing this plant with the cherry plant, which I've had success growing cherry tomato plants. But also, you know, think about what other kind of plants might grow well. And maybe you don't want to grow tomatoes. We already know that greens grow well, right? They can do okay. But, you know, what other plants might grow well? And there's one other observation is you see my other tomato, which is also indeterminate, but I just clipped it and I'm going to keep it into this manageable size here. It's about maybe 5'6" or 7" tall. But this one's doing okay. You see it's setting tomatoes. And so that's good. That's what you want to see. And it has a lot of healthy tomato, I don't know what you call these, tomato vines, tomato branches, whatever you call this right here. Tomatoes grow, as opposed to this that leaves grow off of. I'm talking about the ones that tomatoes grow off of. So it looks okay. You know, sometimes when you plant in pots, the nutrient density of the soil, especially if you buy a cheap soil, like I bought the cheapest soil that you could get at any hardware store. And so sometimes you have to supplement, and that's the only thing I would say about this plant is I limited the watering of the plant to get it to start producing tomatoes. And now I just need to supplement it. Like before we were organic, people would say just use Miracle Grow, right? Just throw some Miracle Grow in to get the plant back green and healthy. And that's what I would say this plant needs is a little fertilizer, a little something to help it with a little extra boost. Because when you grow in these pots like this, and when you grow in potting soil, it doesn't hold water, so the water is flushing through. And the soil medium itself holds a part of the water, but a part of the water, which is more than what you would have in soil, in the ground, is just flushing right through and out the bottom of, I'll show you, even now as I just watered, you see how the water's dripping and it's flowing out the bottom. And so that's normal, that's what you want with this type of soil medium, but at the same time, if you put any nutrients, they need to be slow release. So that they don't just flush right through the pot and out. Or you can just water it regularly, every week or every 2 weeks with a dilute mix of some kind of fertilizer. So I would say take 25%, 10% of what they recommend for a month, put that in and just water it every week or two with that fertilizer. And I've kind of been doing that, but not a lot because, you know, there's no drama and I need some drama. So I was a half lazy pot gardener so we can have some problems to work on. And so we got them. But anyway, okay. One last thing I'll talk about before I switch the plant is notice the pot size. So I have a small pot. I have 2 small pots here. And these are like 12-inch pots, like really small. So there's one here. There's one here. And so you can see the size of the leafy green plants growing in these smaller pots. And then if you go up to a larger pot, which is my second size of pot, you can see, as you can see, I had a visitor to this one. eating my plant, but luckily I got them out and the plant's regrowing. So anyway, my second size pots, you can see, try to give you a frame of reference there. You can see how they're growing. All right, so this is maybe an 18-inch, 20-inch, something like that, a middle, kind of a normal size pot. And then I have the larger pots, which the bigger and deeper pots. This is a big, deep pot here. This one's 24 inches or bigger. It holds more than 5 gallons of soil, probably more like 7 or 8 gallons. And these pots, if you're gonna grow in pots, the bigger the pot, the better, because the soil moisture is regulated better. It doesn't respond to the environment as much, so it doesn't heat up or cool down as much. It is more like the ground. It behaves more like the ground the bigger you get. Or my strawberries are in a grow table, which is just a big, like 12-inch by, 4 foot by 2 foot, like planting area. And you can do that as well. But you see, the size of what your plants will grow, it really can vary based on your pot size. And so I get a smaller size, which I actually really like this size for salads, for how you would be using these greens on a day-to-day basis. But, they're kind of small. And so you go up to a bigger size pot right next to it. The same thing grows a half a size bigger. And what is that? Oh, wow, looky there. Look at that. You see that's all crumpled up like that? What does that tell you? It's covered with aphids. Wow. Aphid infestations in the summer can come on in like literally just a couple days. And so you always have to be aware. I can treat it. I just treated something earlier. Yep, there's some there. As those leaves start curling like that and crumpling, it's the surest sign of anything. And so Castile soap and water I spray, and that's been working good so far. But you see, there's lots of things to address. And I also took just a bunch of like harvest videos. And so to finish up, the bigger the pot, if you can get a bigger pot, it'll be better because it's more versatile and you can grow more things in it. And I'll kind of demonstrate that. But if you want to start just with a smaller pot, I would recommend this 18-inch pot. I wouldn't recommend these smaller pots. This is just a little too small. It has some use, but it's more ornamental, and you want the leaves to grow big enough. And so the last thing I was going to say, so just a thought, the last thing is I am going to show you what I've been harvesting, because harvesting a garden in this way is different. So I'm not waiting for one big harvest. I'm harvesting small amounts all the time. So this pot garden is feeding me regularly 2 or 3 times a week as I come and clip leaves or whatever it is I might want to eat, a snack, a salad, a side to dinner, whatever it may be. It's feeding me regularly, small amounts. And it does that all summer long. So it's a little different concept in harvesting and having the garden feeding you smaller amounts regularly that you just incorporate instead of looking for a bigger harvest. And so, okay, why don't we go and get this plant changed out and kind of wrap things up today. Had to make an adjustment, and I thought I'd talk about it. Rough day, the fight begins. It's been hot. It's hot now, and so you got to deal with those summertime bugs, and that's a part of things. And so anyway, let's get this switched out. You could time me on how long it takes me to do this. It's actually not that bad to make these types of adjustments. I make them regularly and all summer because I want this garden to produce. You know what I'm saying? I don't want this garden to just be sitting here growing ornamentally. You don't grow a New Victory garden. Well, I guess it could help your mental health, right? But you want some production out of this garden. That's why we're growing this. And so if it's not producing, you can swallow your pride, right? That's the first thing. Swallow your pride and make an adjustment that should hopefully benefit. Okay, dig the root ball out. And I'm gonna use my hori to get as much good soil off of the roots as I can. Right. And readjust the soil a bit. Make sure it's ready to receive my new plant here. So this victory garden has been here, this pot garden I should say, has been in place for 2 months now. So at the 2-month mark, we're making an adjustment. Alrighty. Okay, let's see here. Black cherry. I'm gonna leave a sticker there so I can remember. That's another good thing is when you're planting, like take some notes about what grows well, like what crops have grown well and have really served you well, so that you can keep that seed and grow that crop, right? Because some plants just are gonna grow better than others, and that's normal. All right, last thing. Can you guess what the last thing is? Besides toss on the compost pile, it's the water. So, got my new plant in place here. Give it a good thorough watering. Give this a good thorough watering in. All right. Okay, how long did that take me? That's it. I think I'll close the video out here. Thank you all for watching. You know, gardening can be a saga, but it's always worthwhile. And I guess you won't grow if you never have a challenge. And so being versatile and being able to pick the right crops that grow and produce for you is just part of learning how to do this and being resilient. And so I just wanted to talk about it. And if you have comments, please leave me comments. I'll do my best to answer them. And of course, you can check the website too, that has a lot of good information about where to get the right types of things or how to diagnose and do that. I try to make that a resource. And I look forward to talking to you all on a happier note in harvest videos on the next video. So take care. God bless. I'll talk to you later.